Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second CopyPress webinar. I'm joined by Neil Patel, the co-founder of CrazyEgg and Kissmetrics, as I'm sure you all know. Today we'll be discussing how to measure success of content marketing through analytics. We're going to kind of do this in interview style. Neil's going to answer some of my questions, and then, of course, we'll be taking questions from you all on Twitter. Just tweet using hashtag CopyPressHOA, stands for Hangouts on Air, and we'll be reading them and addressing them, and Neil will be answering them at the last 15 minutes of the webinar. So, all right, so we'll just kind of get into this. Neil, thanks for joining me today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here. Very excited to kind of pick your brain and learn some of the mysteries behind analytics that you don't really see talked about a lot. Okay, so one of the big things that I really thought was interesting on the Kissmetrics blog, I read about vanity metrics. So could you kind of tell our viewers what is a vanity metric and how to determine if a metric is worth measuring and yeah.
Sure. So a vanity metric is a metric that doesn't really matter, in which the number could go up or down, but it's not necessarily going to affect your bottom line. A good example of this is bounce rates. Have you seen a direct correlation if your bounce rate goes up or down, your revenue goes up or down? Chances are you have not, but I could be wrong. In some cases you could have. But what we've seen is, in many cases, your bounce rate gets worse, but yet you're making more sales. Does it really matter that it got worse if you're making more sales? No. The more sales are better, right? So you need to start focusing on the metrics that matter, such as if you're an advertising site, sure, pages per visitor is really important. If you're not an advertising site, it doesn't matter if a visitor makes 10 page views or 1 page view, right? In which all that really matters is, are they converting to the area you want on your website? Was it a submission field? Is it a sign up? Is it a buying a product? Whatever it may be. So you need to start looking at what's actually causing people to convert. Pretty much the metrics that are important. So whether it's churn, conversion rates, lifetime value of your customer, what are patterns? For example, SEO Moz knows that a whiteboard Friday indirectly causes more conversions than almost any of their other content piece, right? Versus a blog post and things like that. It may not cause a direct conversion, but causes an indirect, in which if someone watches a Whiteboard Friday video, they're more likely to sign up for SEO Moz. That's an important metric because that tells them that they should be doing more video content like Whiteboard Friday.
It's interesting. I didn't know that. So another kind of in the same direction, but if someone's just getting started with guest posting or is somewhat new to starting off a new channel for email acquisition, what signals or metrics should they monitor to help decide to pull the project or to give it a little bit more time? Like when do you determine if something's a failure?
And that's if it's guest posting in hopes to get more email addresses specifically, correct?
To increase for lead generation.
For lead generation. For email subscribers to the blog or leads?
Leads.
Okay, cool. So what I would actually end up doing is 2 things. 1, you write content, you link within your content because that's going to typically convert better than linking within your bio. And you see how much traffic is that driving, and out of those visitors, how many of them are actually converting into leads. Now granted, if you're guest posting on a Huffington Post just for a link, you're probably not going to get too many leads. It may help your SEO rankings in the long run. So, it's hard to put an ROI on that. But if you're looking for leads, you gotta guest post on as relevant blogs as possible, and relevant blogs are ideally very popular, have engaging communities, right? Not just visitor count, but have more comments, tweets, Facebook likes, shares, all those kind of things. So I would look at it as, how many relevant blogs am I posting on, and how many conversions am I getting from that from a lead perspective. Then I would also look at is, how many places am I guest posting on, and how are my rankings doing over a 3-6 month period. Guest posting is a very long-term strategy. You should do it for at least 6 months before pulling the plug. a lot of fine tuning will happen because you'll realize that just because a blog's really popular doesn't mean they're going to drive a lot of visitors. You'll learn how to craft the links within the text to maximize how many people click on them and convert it into leads. But it takes time to get good at that, right? So for that reason, I wouldn't try to can anything unless you're giving it at least 6 months for a guest posting.
And what would you say are the typical signs? So if someone's, being aggressive with putting content out there, they're doing, the linking the right way, they're finding authoritative sites, it's great, valuable, relevant content. What would you consider like the biggest pitfall that like maybe new marketers make with their content?
They go for authority sites and they just crank out whatever piece of content when it's not highly related to their site. And those pieces of content, sure, they may help a bit with SEO rankings, but they're not going to convert it into leads.
Do you think curation is plays into that too?
I don't know how much curation plays into it. I think it's more so related to they're trying to cheat the system and write mediocre content when they shouldn't even be posting on that site in the first place.
Agreed. So what advice would you have for someone wanting to get into retargeting or remarketing, and what should they know before launching an actual campaign?
Sure. So what I learned with remarketing is if you don't rotate up your creatives at least once a week, they're not going to convert as well as you want because banner blindness happens and people get used to seeing the same thing over and over again. But if you solve that, you should be fine and good to go. But I'll look at it from a weekly basis, right? Rotate up creatives, optimize for cost per click, don't optimize for cost per impression, and just make sure it's converting. In the short run, it probably won't do that well, but after a period of 3-4 months, it should do well. And at the same time, you also have to look at it in which, what's your true cost, in which, you may be like, oh, I'll only spend $50 to acquire each user or each customer. Well, you also created the content. What's the cost in the content? You also did a PPC campaign to get people to the site, and a lot of those didn't convert, and now you're doing remarketing, right? So you have to look at your true costs. So those are some things that I would take into account if I was going to do remarketing campaigns. And the biggest mistake I see is people don't squash the cookie, in which if someone already converts, stop showing them the ads. Or if someone sees the ads 2 or 3 times, don't show them that same ad again the 4th time. Show them something different. Show them a different offer, right? So optimize, because if someone doesn't click on an ad after a few times, 5 or 6 times, don't show them any more ads or show them something totally different.
Yeah, that's a good point to make. It kind of drives me crazy myself. So I've read countless articles from you where collected emails are invaluable. What are some of the most effective elements of an email collection source? Like perhaps particular field options, pop-over ads versus like static side banner ads, or?
So pop-ups tend to work the best. I like content blockers in which they just block your content unless someone looks at the email. Mixergy does an interstitial. If you want to read the site, kind of like Groupon or go to it, you got to put in an email address. So those are all really effective strategies. Make sure you give away something for free, like an ebook, a course. Those tend to collect more emails than anything else. Don't just do simple things in sidebar like get free updates because they don't usually work. Call to actions like join now, get instant access, give me my free ebook, or sign me up for my free course tend to do better. And then the other thing is just collect email fields. I have a tendency to do this. I click name as well, but usually if you just collect email, you should see like roughly a 10% increase in conversion.
With just email, not even a name field option, you're saying?
Yeah, 10% more than if you just did name and email. So by removing one field, you should see a roughly 10% increase in email opt-ins.
Would you say that, is it a typical pattern, the more field options that you require, that conversion rates decrease?
Not always, but I've seen it in some cases. Tim Sykes collects like 10, 15 fields. We tried reducing it down to like 2 fields, and the less fields we put, the less qualified leads we got, and less emails in total. When he put a really good offer, and his offer was so good, he required so much information for his like millionaire challenge that everyone's like, wow, if it's really this good, he'll require a lot of information. By just putting a name didn't convert that well, or name and email. So now he does name, email, after you fill out that, he collects the rest of the information from you. It's a two-step process. But the other thing to also think about is tailored feedback. So quizzes is another good way in which you make someone go through custom responses, and based off the responses, you give them a ebook, right? So I'm doing a quiz right now. Find out the number one reason you're not getting 1 million visitors a month. I'm just making something up. And what I'll do is make you fill out questions. What type of business do you have, right? Do you even have a business? How old is your website? Have you done SEO, PPC? Have you done link building? What kind of link building methods have you used? And then based off of the response, I get a rough understanding of what people have done and what they haven't. And then I can send them a specific email at the end saying like, hey, want to learn the number one reason you're not getting 100,000 visitors a month or 1 million visitors a month? Put in your email and I'll send you the results, and it'll be like, you don't do this. And here's, 30% of the people also don't do this, but here's the biggest mistake you're making, and here's how to solve it. So that kind of stuff converts really well.
That sounds awesome. So do you use the service for your email blast and email subscriber retention, or did you have to create something special and unique for you?
I use Aweber. It works out really well. SendGrid also works out really well. Same with Infusionsoft. I'm switching right now to Blue Hornet, which works better than all of them, but it's much more expensive cost-wise.
And for those surveys, are they kind of like a plugin, or is that a service too?
It was a solved custom.
Okay. What's the most common mistake being made by content marketers that you've seen? So like maybe lack of quality, or not enough unique content, bad optimizing, or poor strategy, or short-sightedness.
So the biggest mistake is probably quality, in which they expect to crank out mediocre content and to do extremely well. The number two one would be promotion. Everyone spends time creating great content, but everyone can. Just because you create great content doesn't mean it's going to do well. So if you spend 5 hours creating the content, a general rule of thumb is if you spend 5 hours marketing it, you're going to get a much bigger bang for the buck than just, only writing great content. So you need to do both these days, not just one. Another thing would be is they don't try to figure out how to monetize, and they try to monetize directly, like with ads, or they're just like, sign up for my product. It doesn't really work. What does work is giving people great information, people being like, wow, this company writes such great information, I have to find out what they do. So you can't like force people. Instead, you got to keep educating. Then maybe you have them give you their email address, because like you're making them take a step. They're giving you something, right, for more of your content. Then from there, you can keep educating and be like, look, want even more? Check this out. And you can get them to buy something that's, not too expensive, and then later you can upsell them into more expensive things. But you have to get people to commit first, and in small steps. Don't expect someone to go from $0 to $1,000.
Yeah, that makes sense. So would that be done with like sequences and an email blast type situation, or?
That's correct. Sequences, email blasts, or drips, whatever you want to end up calling them. You can pitch right away for stuff, or you can do what people like Ramit Sethi does with I Will Teach You to Be Rich. He gives you 30 days worth of free information, really great stuff and tips, and at the end of 30 days you're like, damn, this guy gives me such good content. I wonder what his paid products are like.
Yeah, that's a good, yeah. I typically, if I like a free service, I'll, the free trial is a good indicator of the quality, I think.
Yep.
So for your Kissmetrics customers that are watching, what would you say is the best way to fully utilize the data found in like the group identity people search option? Yeah,
so that's a good question. My favorite thing to do is start segmenting, right? Because when you're in like the people search, you can actually end up making it like, show me all of the people who read the content, tweeted it, and gave me their email address, right? And have been to the site more than 2 times. Like you can actually segment it down that far. And then what I would do is I'm like, all right, these people are really engaged. They have never signed up for our product. let me go and start communicating with them. Because the people who are that engaged, if they're willing to share your content, give you their email address, they love what you do, and they continue to come back, it's like, all right, let me see their email addresses. Let me see what companies they're with, right? Because you can sometimes look them up with Reportive or whatever you want on LinkedIn. Figure out their ideal customers and start calling them and cranking and doing drip sequences and seeing if you can close any of them as customers. But that's what I enjoy doing with that feature. Everyone probably has their own use, but you can slice and dice your data in whatever way you want.
Yeah, I tend to waste too much time playing with just getting super detailed and segmented, kind of like you said. It's kind of fun. I mean, I enjoy that you can even see the search terms. Like you could search for anyone that searched for any kind of query that has blog in it, and how many times they keep coming back, and if they converted, or I mean, it's really fun. So I just wondered, you know, coming from someone who created it for us to use, wondering who, what the intent was there, and you know what the grand plan was for that feature. So thank
Yeah,
you.
definitely. And I can't take credit for creating it. It was a team effort, and a lot more people had the idea before me within the company. But nonetheless, hats off to you for coming up with that question, because not too many people actually understand our product that well or use it that detailed or on an advanced level, right? Especially like with the people search, they're just like, oh, cool, it looks great, but a lot of people don't actually use it because they don't understand the power. But once they use it, they're hooked on it. But love the question nonetheless.
Thank you. Yeah, I have to admit I didn't I was a little scared off by it just because I was so, you know, ooh and awed and impressed with all the fancy graphs and charts. So it took me a little bit to kind of play in the other tabs, and then once I discovered the people area, I definitely got hooked, like you said.
Yep.
We talked a little bit about Kissmetrics, the people section. Would you say that some of the data or all of the data in that segment people section in Kissmetrics could be used to create or tweak a remarketing campaign?
It can, because then you can end up seeing who you're remarketing, you know, how ideal of a customer are they, and so forth, so on. But it allows you to slice and dice the data any way you want, so that way you can only remarket the people that you should be remarketing and not anyone else.
That's good. Yeah, that's definitely a good point. What is the most underutilized feature of Kissmetrics by users, would you say?
The most underutilized features would probably be the people search, right? So although it's
Yeah.
powerful, it's not on all plans. You have to be on the higher end plans to use it. But even then, what we've learned is unless you want to actually do something uh, like specific within your product, or you're in a role like a VP of marketing or a product manager or engineer, in many cases that feature will give you a lot of data, but unless you're one of those people that can actually make changes and implement changes based off the data, you know, then it's just another report. Like you could be looking at arbitrary equivalents, but we found that if you're an ideal customer, such as a VP of marketing or a product manager or whatever it may be, they actually use those features more often, and they'll actually not just use them, but they'll make business decisions based off of them. And they're in
And
a
that's what they
role.
were created for, right?
Exactly, because the problem is if you're a associate, associate marketer, yeah, you can look up the data and you could be like, oh, cool, anyone who's an e-commerce customer pays us 10 times more. Everyone else churns based off of our people report. We shouldn't advertise to them, and we shouldn't spend any money. Well, yeah, you got that data. You could try to convince your boss, but if your boss isn't down, you're wasting your time. But when a VP marketer looks at it and he sees it, he can be like, oh, cool, great, and he can just do it himself. I'm not saying that other people don't use it. It's just when a product manager or VP of marketing or someone at that level in an organization uses it, they're able to make business decisions, while other people within a company have to go through the chain of command.
And convinced to make decisions, right?
That's right, which always slows things down.
Yeah. So kind of staying on this route, but switching it up to another great tool, CrazyEgg. What would you say is the most underutilized feature of CrazyEgg?
The Confetti report. So the Confetti
Oh, the
lets you,
container report.
Yeah, it lets you pinpoint people and actually see who's doing what, and you can actually see how people who are on Mac computers engage differently from PC users, or people from Google how they engage differently from Yahoo, or different keywords or whatever you want. But a lot of people don't use the Confetti report.
Yeah, I can't say enough great things about the Confetti report. That's my default filter. So it's all colorful and it's exciting, and I like seeing even just recently when we were um, doing the uh, stuff for mobile. I can't think of the word all of a sudden. Um, we used CrazyEgg, the confetti, to look at which phones were used by a largest chunk of our audience, and we realized we had to take the iPhone 4S sized screen and take that into consideration first, based on our mobile user demographic.
And the good thing about Crazy, I think like within a few more months, you'll see tablet and mobile versions of the product in which it'll automatically show you different screen resolutions and snapshots based off the device people are using. So you can see one for each
That's exciting.
device.
Awesome. Um, so, CrazyEgg heat maps. What should be the biggest takeaway from those heat map results? Should site design and UI be adjusted first, or should content be A/B tested before any big changes are made? Or
It's usually site design and UI. CrazyEgg helps you make the website and the user flow more usable. That's like the main thing with it. You can use it for content as well, see if people are reading your content, scrolling down, all those kind of things. But usually most people use CrazyEgg for design related elements.
okay. Um, so I've seen a couple different studies and articles about word count's effect on conversion rates for content. Where I know you did the A/B testing on neilpatel.com with the different content links.
Yeah.
Would you say that each site is different, or generally higher word count is better conversion or higher quality conversion, or kind of where do you stand on that?
Each site is different. There's no one shoe fits all type of thing with conversion optimizations. And it's like same with the content, right? What works for one site isn't going to work for another site, even if they're in the same exact industry. Just just how the cookie crumbles, right? I could try to create a business that's exactly like CopyPress and provide very similar services, but I bet you the way you acquire customers or things convert for you won't really necessarily work the same for me, even though we're in the same space.
Yeah, that's a good point too. So kind of staying on the A/B track, when A/B testing, which element is best to optimize for conversions on a site? Would it maybe be like optimizing page layout or the content or button placement, color? Is it better to
It,
start small or kind of?
it usually varies per site, but here's the first step you should be doing in A/B testing. First, find out what your user objections are, so you can survey them through like SurveyMonkey or Qualaroo. Find out what objections they have, and then you could answer those objections throughout your copy and your design and layout. But without the objections, you're then just making random changes to a page, and you don't necessarily know if it's going to help convince someone to buy a product or sign up or whatever it may be. And then when you're looking at those overall things, a lot of times it involves tweaking like call to actions, headlines, content, overall layout. So.
Okay. So kind of an issue that we've been seeing recently, we receive a lot of spam and bot traffic. It seems like on any of our lead forms, any kind of channel capturing. So what's the best way to filter out those trashy leads and spam, besides maybe adding like a CAPTCHA or something like that?
Yeah, on the technology end, you can have it where your developer just stops it so bots can't submit to the form fields. That's what we do, and that helps. The other thing you can do is do lead qualification. So you can put metrics behind each lead and what it's valued at. So then it'll tell your sales reps or people if they should follow up with it or not, or if it's junk.
That's handy. Yeah, we'll definitely have to look into stuff like that because it seems like they're getting through no matter what. So I have a silly question for you. So the CrazyEgg ad video that you guys have,
Yeah.
did you guys hire another company for that, or how did you create it? Because I think it's adorable.
Demo Duck created it.
Okay. And
So
then,
we
oh,
came
go
up
ahead.
with the script, and then Demo Duck is the one who designed it.
It's very cute, and I like the script too.
Thanks.
Okay, so I'm gonna pull up Twitter right now, and we'll get to our viewers' questions. So, all right, the first question comes from Amanda Prinzo, and she asked you, what is your opinion of Google consumer surveys? I think they're a great idea, but haven't seen any in practice.
Same here. I also think they're good ideas, but I haven't seen anyone really use them.
So, do you think they're going to maybe um, become more frequent, or that maybe some value will be put into them soon, or is it just
Uh,
kind of?
you just never know with the search giant because they have so much, on their plate. But I think when, you know, it gets put in use and someone's showcasing how well it is or how awesome it is or the results, and everyone's going to jump on the bandwagon. But until then, you're not really going to see much of it.
Yeah. All right. Sandeep Banerjee, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. Um, they asked, do you think guest posting can create negative impact in keyword ranking despite high quality and relevant content?
I do not think it can, assuming if it's high quality, because high quality means you're probably not keyword stuffing, you're probably not just linking out to your site or using rich anchor text to game the search engines, but it should not hurt your rankings, and I don't think it can.
Okay. All right. So
And
that's all of
especially
the
if it's
Twitter
on
questions.
a related site as well, right? Because it's not just the high quality content, but who you guest posting on as well. If you're a dog food site, you shouldn't be guest blog posting on SEO Moz or CopyPress or QuickSprout or any of those sites, right? So
What would you say, like, also, so trying to think how to word this. For posting content on one of those high level sites, an authority site, you're creating awesome content, but what if maybe you're just getting into the influencer space, like blogger as an author, like you're just establishing your, your authorship. How do you think that, I mean, I know there's definitely a weight placed on the authority on an authority site, like, but how much of an impact do you think it can have?
I think it have a lot, not as much in the short run, but in the long run, I think it'll have a lot more, right? Because I think we're just seeing the beginning of it. Just like look how long it took Google to really fine tune their algorithm, right? I
Yeah.
think it's going to take them a while for the author part to get through. Even the social signals, I think we're still far away from seeing social signals really impacting search rankings compared to a few years from now.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I feel like social's not the value and how it impacts rank is not fully there yet. So it's exciting to think what's to come. That's all of the Twitter questions. And as you mentioned before, you have a hard stop in 4 minutes. So we will officially wrap up this webinar. Did you want to go ahead and let us know what's coming up or what's on the horizon for you?
Sure, nothing major, just still focusing on Kissmetrics and try to continually build an awesome product and help solve more problems. So, mainly up for me. Really appreciate you guys having me on here. You can always read our blog at Kissmetrics, or you can read my personal one at QuickSprout.
Both great blogs, and I'm definitely a loyal follower. It was our pleasure to have you. Thank you to our viewers for tuning in and sticking with us through all these technical difficulties. You can find both videos on our blog if you're watching live, and also on our YouTube channel and our Google Plus page. Thank you, Neil, for also sticking with us and for agreeing to speak with me today. It's been a pleasure.
No worries at all. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And to our viewers, thanks for tuning in, and we hope to see you at next month's webinar. Thanks.
Let's do some effects. Let's do. Remake.